These are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar, Best Practices and Tips for Using Hubdoc. My name is Charlie, and I'm joined this week by my colleague Dylan.
Hi everyone.
And today we'll take you into a deep dive of the Hubdoc platform and hopefully show you some things that you didn't know before. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate to ask. So there is a chat box in the GoToWebinar control panel, so you can ask your question there. We should chat back to you if we think it's something that's relevant to the entire audience. We'll actually bring that up in the webinar itself. Awesome. So in terms of the webinar today, we're going to go over generally into Hubdoc and then into some more detail. So we're going to take you through the organizations page. We're going to tell you how to add a client account, how to add your employees to help manage Hubdoc. We're going to take you into the dashboard and show you how to add automated connections, manually upload documents, code those documents over to Xero, and also some more administrative functions. So without further ado, let's hop into Hubdoc. So this is the organizations page. This is the first page you will see when you first log into Hubdoc. At the top here will be your VIP account, and listed below you'll be all the client accounts that you have managerial access to. To add a client account is very easy. Just come in here, click the Add a Client Account button. If it's the first client account you're adding, you'll be taken directly to the billing information page, where you have to enter in your credit card information. For all client accounts after that, you'll see this pop up. Just enter in this basic information: company name, first name, last name, email address. Your client will receive an email in their inbox prompting them to set up their password. If you wanted to add a client account on behalf of them, you can certainly do this, and there are two main ways we can go about doing this. So the first would be an email alias. This works with all Gmail accounts and some other email accounts. So just keep in mind, if you don't have a Gmail account, this may not work. But what you do is you type in the email address that's associated with your VIP account. So for me, that'd be charlie@hubdoc.com. If I wanted to create an email alias, what I do is I just add a plus symbol after Charlie and then something like the company name. So Canuck Construction. And so what will happen when I do this is that all emails associated with that account will actually go to the email address charlie@hubdoc.com. And the reason that we do this email alias is because every one Hubdoc account can only have one email address associated with it. So that's just a handy trick to get around that restriction. Another way to do this, if you don't have an email server that supports an email alias, is you can do a fake email. So let's say charlie@email.com. Create that account. We'll see it listed below our VIP account in the organizations page, and we can just access it from there. We can also change that email at a later date, and Dylan will go in how to do that later on in this webinar. So that's how to add a client account. In terms of adding any employees from your firm to help manage the different Hubdoc accounts, click on the Manage Users button, type in your employee's email address. They'll show up here, and what you can do is you can click on them. You can actually add them to certain subsets of your client base. So very easy. Just do this, click Add Access. You can revoke the access at any time as well, or you can delete the user if they no longer work at the firm. So just swinging back to the organizations page, we have a few columns here to help us organize and keep track of our different client accounts. So this first column, Docs to Review, this is really a prioritization tool. This shows you all the documents that are sitting in that certain client account's review tab and are awaiting to be published to one of the downstream integrations, like Xero or a cloud storage platform. So I'd come in here in the morning, I'd see that Falcon Shipping has the most documents to review. They would most likely be the client that I go into first and tidy up. The next column is the status column. So there could be two notifications here, one of them being an orange triangle, and this will signify that one of the automated connections for this client's account requires our attention. So perhaps the credentials for that connection have changed. We just need to go in there and change those credentials. Here's where you'd be notified of that. And then the second status notification that you could see would be an orange cloud with an exclamation mark in the middle, and this would signify that one of the downstream cloud integrations just has become disconnected with Hubdoc. So you can click on that here. It'll take you to the integrations or the destinations tab, where you can fix that integration. Lastly, we have this staff column here. So this, again, similar to those manage users, the manage users button, will show you how many staff are actually on that specific client account. So I'll actually take you into one of my client accounts. We'll go into Connect Construction here. And what we'll see is the Hubdoc dashboard. So this is one of my client accounts. This will look the same to my client as it will to me. If you're an accountant or bookkeeper, the only main difference being you'll have this stack icon here where you can toggle between your different client accounts. So generally, looking at the dashboard, we have our document stream on the left, our folder structure on the left here, our document stream in the middle, and then we actually view the document on the right. The first thing we want to do when we set up a Hubdoc account is actually start pulling in those documents. So we can do this two ways. The first would be through an automated connection through the Add Account button, and the second being through manual upload, so Add Receipt button. To establish one of the automated connections, just click Add Account. Hubdoc actually has over 200 different connections in the Australian market that we can automatically fetch documents from. We actually do have a live list of all these connections, so if you don't have that list, please let us know in the chat box. We'd be more than happy to send that along to you as a follow-up to the webinar today. So all you have to do to establish one of these connections is just type in the supplier's name here or pick from one of these popular companies below. Come in. If you have your client's credentials for the supplier, you can enter it on behalf of them. If not, all your client needs to do is come in one time and set up this account by typing in their credentials just like they would on that supplier's web portal. So your client would come in here, enter in his credentials just like he would on Commonwealth Bank, click Add Account, and we'll establish that connection with Commonwealth Bank. What we'll do is we'll go into that account, we'll pull in all the historical source documents. So from a bank, we'll be pulling in those bank statements. So you can see in a matter of seconds, we'll pull in the past 12 months of bank statements, some banks many years into the past. We'll also automatically create this Commonwealth Bank folder on the left here and sort the documents based on their different sub-account. So a common question we get is, what if my client has a bank account with a mix of personal and business accounts, and I only want to see the business accounts? Great question, and we can definitely handle that. When we first establish that connection, what Hubdoc's going to do is it's going to pull in all the documents under those login credentials. So there may be a mix of business and personal in there. So what we recommend doing is coming into Add Account, locating the Hide Accounts tab, and then finding that personal account and just toggle that to stop fetching. So on a going forward basis, we're not going to pull any documents from that personal account. And then the last thing I'd recommend is just actually locate those historical personal account statements that have been pulled into Hubdoc and just delete those from that Hubdoc account and just empty the trash to take them off the Hubdoc servers. Awesome. So that's bank statement fetching. We also do have many other suppliers we can fetch documents from. So Telstra would be a great example. We've set up this connection. We've fetched this document and filed it in the folder structure on the left here. And we also instantaneously extract data from this bill. So if we open up the edit data bar here, we can see right away we've extracted the vendor name, the date, and the total amount, and we're ready to publish this downstream to Xero. So my colleague Dylan will go into that in more detail later on in this webinar. So that is the automated side of our platform in terms of automated connections, and that's really what makes us different. And we think will provide you the most value between you and your client. We do have a manual side where you can manually upload documents because we do know that not all suppliers are going to be online. So if you wanted to manually upload a document, you just click this Add Receipt button. And there are three ways that we can do this. So the first being we can drag and drop a file or browse for a file on our desktop. We can email in a document using the unique Hubdoc intake email address, or we can drag and drop, or we can snap a photo using the mobile app. All those documents will be pulled into Hubdoc, and we can code them across to Xero. So I'll show you guys an example today. So this unique Hubdoc intake email address, when you first set up your client's Hubdoc account, this is going to be a mix of letters and numbers. And it's something we're going to want to customize something a bit easier. So Dylan will show you how to do that later on in the webinar. But in terms of actually bringing a document by email, so what we do is we go copy to clipboard to copy this email, go into our email account, paste that email address, and upload a receipt. So just go to attach files, look for a receipt that we want to upload, do this Apple receipt. So now that this is attached as a document, we can send it in. One more handy trick that you can use is if you ever wanted to attach a note to this document, you can certainly do that. What you need to do is go hashtag note, go, let's say, paid for with Charlie's personal credit card, and then just end that off in another hashtag note so I don't pick up any of my email signature. We'll send this in, and we should see that arrive in my Hubdoc account. There it is already. You can actually see this note annotation on the document stub here. You can see that note's carried along with the document, and the bill has already been imported into Hubdoc. In terms of this document stream here, so we have 5 different accounts that'll help us keep track of the document as it flows through Hubdoc. So the All tab will house all the documents that have ever been pulled into Hubdoc, and they'll be ordered based on a chronologically. The processing tab, so all documents here will be paired with a blue clock, and these will be all the manually uploaded documents. So all those documents that I've either emailed in, dragged and dropped in, or snapped a photo using the mobile app, they'll go here and they'll be processing using our OCR technology. So our OCR technology typically takes 12 to 24 hours to extract the key data from this bill. And once that process is complete, this document is going to move from processing into review. So the review tab would be all of those automatically fetched documents or all those manually uploaded documents that have been pulled into Hubdoc, have had data extracted from them, and are ready to be published to one of the downstream integrations. So we can think of this as our Hubdoc inbox. You can come in here every morning and find all the documents that are waiting to be published to zero. The failed tab, this will house any documents that failed the processing phase. Usually this happens in the case of a receipt that is really crumpled up or the ink's very faded, so it's hard for OCR technology to read. Lastly, we have this archive tab. Documents here will have a green check mark and really indicates that action on this document has been taken. Just hopping over to our folder structure here. So this is where you can really access all this historical documents. We're going to sort the documents on a supplier basis. So when you first set up your Hubdoc account, you're going to have 2 master folders. You're going to have bills and statements and uploads. So bills and statements, those would be all the automated connections. And uploads, those would be all the manually uploaded documents. However, we can customize this folder structure very easily. So all you need to do is click the drop-down menu, and we'll actually have, we can add a new folder, we can rename a folder, we can delete a folder, we can drag and drop a folder. So let's say add a new folder, telecommunications. If you want to create a new folder, you just need to make sure to click enter. If you click off the folder, it's not going to create. But here I've created a telecommunications folder. I can take my Telstra bills, drag and drop them, and they'll now lie in my telecommunications folder. Similarly, we can do that for something like all of our bank accounts. I've actually done this as well for my uploads. All of my food vendors I've put in one folder just to shrink that list and keep things a bit more organized. So that's our folder structure. As I said, that's going to be organized on a supplier basis. If you want to organize documents that are from different suppliers that are similar in nature, you can certainly do this, and that is exactly what the tags are for. So to add a new tag, simply click new tag here. I guess we can do Dylan's expenses. So things like tags are helpful for tracking expenses or which credit card a certain transaction was used. And pretty much once the tag is created, we can come in here and we can drag and drop documents into that tag. So this Apple receipt, let's say this is Dylan's expense. I can come in here, drag and drop it into Dylan's expense. I can also select multiple documents as well and drag and drop. Similarly, we can actually create the tag directly within the document itself. So instead of adding new tag here, we can add a tag here. So if it's one that's already been created, like Charlie's expenses, I can just type it in, click Charlie's expenses, or I can just create a new tag directly from the document. Lastly, in terms of notes, I said you could attach a note if you're emailing in a document. You can also attach a note to a document that has already been imported into Hubdoc. So this bill, for example, I can just click the notes button right here, add that note, click save, and that's going to carry forward this document. Important thing to note about both tags and notes is that they're both just internal tools to Hubdoc. They're not actually going to carry forward that document when we publish it down to zero. It's just tools to help you organize and keep track of those documents within Hubdoc. So I'm going to pass the rest of the webinar over to my colleague Dylan, who's going to walk you through how to publish those documents downstream to zero and some other helpful tools.
Thanks, Charlie. Hi, everyone. So now we've gone through getting documents into Hubdoc, either be it automatically or manually. We've gone through the workflow that we use here in Hubdoc with the tabs as well as the folder structure. So let's go through coding and creating transactions in Xero. So when a document is brought in, so if we go to telecommunications and I bring in my Telstra bills, for example, I'll grab this Telstra document. I'm going to open what we call the edit data bar. So what that is it's this banner here on the right-hand side. It's a green bar. Click on that and it will pop what we call the edit data bar open. So if we submitted a support ticket and we ask you to click on the edit data bar, that's what it is. So now going through this, document type, completely irrelevant. It will become relevant in the future, but right now it is completely irrelevant. So don't waste your time completing that. In terms of other things, so if it's an automated connection, the vendor name is going to pull through correctly every time. We're also going to pull it through with the manual accounts as well. If the invoice number is clear, we will sometimes populate it, but not always. So you may need to put an invoice number in there. Now, the date will always be pulled out, so the bill date will be there. The due date you may need to put in depending on the connection. And for manual accounts, you'll almost always have to put the due date in. So just be aware of that. Now, coming down here, we do support multiple currency, and we can save that based on the vendor name. So if you needed multiple currency, simply select the currency here, and we will save it. If you save your configurations that I'll go through in just a moment, we'll save that currency per supplier. So if you've got multi-currency set up in Xero, we can certainly allow you to do that. However, we don't do the conversion. So when it goes across, it'll convert across at whatever rate Xero is using. But be aware that you're probably still going to need to do a manual conversion like you're currently using in Xero, just because no one's able to work out what the bank's going to apply for an FX rate on the line item in the bank feed. Keeping on going down this list, now extracted amount and tax. So I'll show you how to set up tax, but we'll bring in tax from Xero. So you can see here GST on expenses, GST free expenses, etc. I'll show you how to set that up when we set up Xero. But say for this Telstra bill, for example, you can see there that $13.64 is not the GST on $379 because there is the phone component as well as the usage component to this receipt, which is common for most telcos. Now, what you can do is you can set up the taxable portion at 10%, the untaxable portion at 0%, choose the chart of account and click Generate Line Items. From there, we're going to automatically populate the taxable and non-taxable line items for you. And if you wanted to, you could certainly go ahead and change the account for, say, the tax exempt amount if you needed it to go to a different chart of account in Xero. So you would want to click Save and Close that. I clicked Cancel for some reason. So you would want to click Save and Close. And then that will save those line items for you. And then you can go ahead and set up rules for Xero. So setting up rules for Xero, you would choose Save Configuration to make sure that we save these going forward. And then you would either choose a purchase or spend money. We recommend purchase because when it does go across to purchases, either draft or authorize. Once it is authorized in Xero, Xero will match it to the bank feed appropriately. If there's only one bank account set up with that Xero account, then obviously all the payments are going to be coming out of that bank account. So you could publish that across as a spend money. And then you could go ahead and choose the appropriate bank account there. So I'm going to publish this across as a purchase. I'm going to leave it as draft, but you can certainly publish it across as authorized if you wanted to. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and click publish. So once that's published across, I'm going to jump into Xero. I published it across as a draft bill. So if I go down, you're going to see that this Telstra bill has been created in Xero for me, and the source document is attached. So from there, I can go ahead, click approve. If it's in my bank feed, it's going to match up nicely. And that is the ability of Hubdoc. So we also got the source document attached, as you would expect. And then we can also do this automatically. So what I mean by automatically is we can actually set up auto sync. Now, Telstra is not a good example, but say Bunnings, for example, where it's always 10% GST. You would not need to use extracted amount. You would just be able to put the rule in for GST. And what we'll do is we'll apply whatever rules you've created here, apply the 10% GST, and we'll create that transaction in Xero for you automatically as soon as that document's available on the portal. Now, we do connect with cloud storage platforms as well. So you can certainly go down here and save the configurations and set auto sync for Dropbox as well. But what we do recommend is, I'll walk you through this, but we do recommend auto syncing Dropbox at the document level down here. So when you first publish across the document, set your rules up in Xero, and once your rules are set up in Xero, click auto sync and then publish it across the Dropbox as well. So just walking through that again. So new document comes in, we're going to come in, we're going to set our rules up for Xero, we're going to save our configurations, auto sync to Xero if you want, if it's appropriate, and then what we're going to do is we're going to auto sync to Dropbox as well, and then click publish. And then what that means is the next time that that document becomes fetched, for example, say it's a Bunnings receipt that we're fetching, it's going to be automatically published with a transaction created in Xero. It's also going to be automatically published across to Dropbox. Okay, so that all sounds well and good. How do we set that up? We go up into accounts. So we click on accounts and we go to the destinations tab. From here, this is where you connect to Xero. And what we need to do is we need to click publish tax data. What that does is that brings in the tax rates from Xero and allows you to use that extracted amount calculator that I just showed you before, as well as allows you to select the 10% and 0% GST rules. Another question we often get is, what is Xero Files? So Xero Files is the cloud storage that Xero offers. So if I jump over to my Xero account and I go up here, this folder here, this is Xero Files. So this is a cloud storage platform that Xero does offer all of its clients. And we can push there if you would like us to. So if you're used to pushing documents to Xero Files, you can certainly do that. And that's why you will see two Xero files listed here. So you'll see Xero down here, as well as Xero up here. So the first Xero, this is the Xero that creates the transaction. Xero Files is just the cloud storage platform. So it's not going to create a transaction in Xero. It's just going to allow you to put the document over in Xero so that it's stored there for you, keeping your current workflow and allowing for data redundancy so that we don't have all of those documents just stored in Hubdoc. So coming back into the destinations tab, working our way down, we do also connect to QuickBooks Online. So if you wanted to connect to QuickBooks Online, you could certainly do that as well. Just be aware that we do work on a 1-to-1 ratio with the general ledgers. So you would need one Hubdoc account per Xero account or one Hubdoc per QuickBooks account. So scrolling down the destinations tab, you'll see here that this is our cloud storage platforms. And you can see here I've got Dropbox and Google Drive connected to both of mine. And I've selected what folder. I've just put it straight into the Hubdoc folder. But you can certainly change that. So if you've got a folder structure that you want to continue to use, you can certainly keep using that. Just type in the folders with the correct name. So say Dylan's Docs, / bookkeeping, / Canuck, etc. So all of them just need to be separated by a / and just make sure that the wording is correct. So no spelling errors or anything like that, because we will not be able to publish those across accurately if anything is wrong. We'll also allow you to copy the folder structure in Hubdoc. So if you've got your folder structure set up, so Charlie walked you through how to change that folder structure, we'll be able to copy that across to your cloud storage platforms as well. Email forwarding is just a tool. Now, if you want to set up email forwarding to get documents into Hubdoc, that's set up in the email browser. So that's set up in Gmail or that's set up in Outlook, and you would set up rules in that service. So you would set it up in Gmail, for example, to auto forward documents into Hubdoc. If you wanted to do email forwarding, what this does is it gets documents from Hubdoc into an email address. So if you wanted to send documents from Hubdoc to an intake email address of another app or another cloud storage platform, for example, you could put the email address associated with that app or storage platform there and click add. Fantastic. Okay, so this is most of the fun stuff done now. So let's go through all the admin settings. So the first lot is in the profile tab. So again, to get here, just remember to click on accounts, top right hand corner, go to the profile tab and you'll see the first name, last name, company name, base currency, etc. Now, if you do have your first client that you're signing up, just remember to toggle into that client and put these pieces of information in, because they're not actually going to ask you for those. So it's not like the second client where you click add a client account and you saw with the first client that Charlie added and showed you on the webinar where he inputted the first name, the last name, the company name, etc. We don't ask you that for the first client. So for the first client, you need to come into the profile tab for that client and input that information in here. Now, we are North American, so everyone go and check your accounts after this and see whether it says month, day, year. Silly, I know, but I am the only Aussie in the team right now, and I'm telling them it's silly. But eventually, we will get it right, and it will come in as day, month, year when you set up your account. But currently, just double check that, and then we'll make sure that it is in a format that we understand here down under. Now, if you wanted to change your password, you could certainly do that here as well. And then you can change the unique intake email address right here by clicking edit, inputting the email address there, and you can click save. And then it's just going to change the prefix before the @app.hubdoc.com. And then, so this one's Canuck Constructions, but you can change it to whatever works best for your client so that it's nice and easy to remember for your client to give to their suppliers or for your client to just send files in themselves. Data extraction. So if you're sending documents into Hubdoc and they're going straight to archived, so if they're coming in and got a quick checkbox next to it, come into the profile tab and check to make sure that this has been selected. Because what that means is, it means when you upload a document, we are going to extract the information from it for you. If you didn't want that to happen, so if you did exceed our fair use policy of 300 documents per day, you could continue to upload them into Hubdoc, but you would need to turn data extraction off and manually code those. So just be aware of that. If anyone's got any additional questions around that, please feel free to put that question in the chat box and I can handle those for your specific use case there. So make sure that data extraction's on. If they're still coming in and there's a check mark next to it, just ping us at support@hubdoc.com.au because it might be that your account hasn't been VIP'd or it might be for your client that they're in a non-paying state for whatever reason. Going down further, invite users to access your Hubdoc account. So generally what we recommend is paying for your clients, managing their subscription for them, and then on-charging that to them if appropriate. You can do that from the organizations page. If your client did want to pay for it themselves and give you access to it, this is how they would do it. So they would sign up for their 14-day free trial. They would then go ahead and give you access by going into the profile tab, inputting the email address associated with your VIP account and clicking add. Now, going across to the manage accounts tab. So hide accounts is what Charlie showed before, where you can turn off stop fetching. So in the manage accounts tab, this is where we set up rules. So this is account level rules for all of the documents, whether they've been automatically fetched or manually uploaded. Okay, so say your client went snap happy They got so excited with Hubdoc, and I have heard this happen before, where someone actually got so excited and stayed up to 1:30 in the morning taking photos of receipts because they were so excited that they could do this. If they do that and you have a whole heap of Coles Express or a whole heap of Apple receipts or a whole heap of Bunnings receipts that all come into Hubdoc, rather than do it at the document level and code them here, if you save configuration here, this is only going to be for new documents that get processed. So that if they're already in the review tab, it's not going to help if we save configuration here and click publish. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go into accounts, go to the manage accounts, go to the manual accounts if it's something that they've snapped a photo of, and then say Apple, for example. So I'll click on Apple. I'm then going to go down and go configure rules for Xero. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to go ahead and input whether I want it to be a purchase, the GST, status, etc. So I'm going to then put all these different options here. So office expenses, for example, and then that's going to apply to all of my Apple receipts that have already been processed and are in the review tab. Click save there to make sure that you save those configurations, and then from here, once you have rules set up for Xero, then you can auto sync to Dropbox. So this is what I was saying before about auto syncing to Dropbox after setting up rules. So some advisors do come in here and they just go up here and they click sync to Dropbox. Sounds great in theory. The only problem is if you sync to Dropbox and say 7-Eleven Paddington, for example, has no rule set up for Xero. So that means if the document comes into Hubdoc, we're going to automatically publish it to Dropbox, and we're going to assume that that's all you wanted us to do with it because you haven't set up rules for Xero. So it's going to skip the review tab, and it's going to be really hard to tell what has been published to Xero and what hasn't. So what I recommend doing is only setting up auto sync once you've set your rules up for Xero. A red flag would be, say for this one, if I see this in, if I go into manual accounts and I see something like this where it's got auto sync for Dropbox and nothing set up for Xero, that's a red flag to me, because that means if FPOS from Westpac comes into Hubdoc, then it means we're not going to put that in review. It's going to be automatically sent to Dropbox and automatically archived, and you're not actually going to see that you need to publish that across to Xero. So just be aware of that. With your automated accounts, we do allow you to set up those same settings for it. So exactly the same. You can change the folder. You can go ahead and you can configure rules for Xero. If, for example, you've got bank statements, and some advisors do like to be told that a new bank statement is available in Hubdoc and wants it to go to the review tab. We actually auto archive these by default. Reason being is because we know that the bank feed is set up in Xero and that we're not actually trying to replace that. So the bank statements are there for compliance purposes. We're giving you an automated compliance service. Now, if you did want to see that that document is available in Hubdoc and you wanted to just check it and be prompted to check it by going to review, come into this automated accounts, click on the account that you wanted to check, so say Combank, for example, and then come down here and then uncheck the auto archive option. With all the other bills, so say Telstra, Bunnings, anything else that's an invoice that's not a bank statement, we will not auto archive going forward. We'll only auto archive on the historical fetch, so that first fetch. And the reason for that is because those documents are in the past, and we expect that 90% of those or 95% of those have been published across to Xero or are in Xero in some way or another. We also send email alerts as well, so if you are sick of receiving emails from Hubdoc, you can toggle those off there as well in these account level rules. Fantastic. So the last thing I'm going to let you know about is with our automated connections, if there's an issue or if it's saying that there's a problem, and it will flag up here, and as Charlie mentioned, it will also flag up on the organizations page. Come in here, and then for the appropriate account, click update account. And what update account will do is it'll just refresh the connection. So if you have ever gone to an email site and received like a 404 error because the page didn't come up or something, often you can get access to it by updating accounts and refreshing that page. So update accounts does exactly the same thing. So you can see that no new docs are available. So that one's fine and it's fixed. So it's nice and green and no problems at all. The other thing that may happen is you may have an edit credential. So you may have an incorrect credentials warning. So if your client changes their credentials on their CommBank portal, they will need to input their credentials and update them in Hubdoc as well. So that's how they would do it. They would come in here, they would update that whatever their new credentials are, click update account, and then we will go ahead and update those credentials for you. Now, the final thing to note is if you ever wanted to delete an account, you can do that there. But if you've edited credentials, you've tried to refresh the account and it's still saying that there's an error, just click report a problem. What that'll do is it'll send us an email here at Hubdoc. We have a rockstar support team that will get back to you within an hour if it's between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. We'll also get back to you at night and on weekends. It's just that we do have a life where we try to outside cloud accounting. So we may not get back to you within that hour, but we certainly make ourselves available as best we can for you, and we'll fix this as quickly as possible. So wrapping up, I'm just going to pause for a moment and give anyone that hasn't asked a question yet to ask away. So put your questions in the chat box, fire away, and I'd be happy to go through those now for you. So fantastic. There are a couple of questions. We are getting to those right now. Isolated questions though, so we are going to answer those by email. One question we did have that will be valid for everybody here is, do we have the ability to extract multiple line items? And that is a great question. Everyone is probably going to come across a receipt that is going to have multiple line items in it. And we certainly can deal with multiple line items. We don't do it automatically, but we do allow you to input multiple line items in Hubdoc. So I'm just going to go to this Officeworks invoice. And if I scroll down here, you'll see that in my document preview, that there is multiple line items. So there's paper clips, printers, and snacks. And then how we deal with this is we actually go into the edit data bar, and then rather than clicking single, we click multiple. And what multiple will do is it'll bring up this dialog box, and then from there we can input the description, the category, the tax rate, the dollar amount, etc. Excuse me. And then choose whether it's tax exclusive or tax inclusive. Now, if you have categories set up, if you've got tracking categories set up in Xero, they will also come up. I don't have any set up in my Xero account, but if you did, they would come up in this dialog box as well. So you can certainly use your tracking categories and also inventory items. So if you have inventory items in Xero, you can also pre-populate the whole line item by just selecting the appropriate inventory item there. The only thing you would need to change is you just need to change the quantity as per the invoice. Another question we just had, which is another great question, is does the paid banner mark it as paid in Xero? So does it go across as authorized if I click paid? Now, the answer is no. The paid banner is an interesting one. What it is it's just an internal flag in Hubdoc. So what it means is we just put this little paid banner on the document stub as well as the image of the document, and that's all. It's just an internal flagging tool. Now, everyone's probably sitting there thinking, why would I need that? A great use case for the paid banner is for documents that you're publishing across to Xero. So like I said, sometimes if you are using the auto sync and you are using the auto sync and you're not always sure if you've published a document across to Xero or not, what you can do is before you publish across, just click paid, go ahead and click publish. And what that will show is when you go on the document stream, you'll actually see the documents that have been paid. So by paid, we mean published. So you can see that on the document stream. So that would be a use case for the paid banner. So great question. Not entirely intuitive, I know, but please be aware that that is only an internal Hubdoc tool. Okay, so I think we're wrapped up on the questions. So thank you everyone for joining this week. We really appreciate it. We hope you've taken something out of it. Again, we are super friendly at Hubdoc. We always want you to ask questions and we never want you to sit there thinking, oh my gosh, this Hubdoc's not working. So if you need to reach out to us, you can submit a ticket by clicking up here on the account and go submit a ticket. Again, we are going to get back to you within an hour, so please submit a ticket and come through to us. If you prefer to hear our lovely voices, you can also call us on 08 7444 5026. If everyone was sitting there like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize he was going to read out a phone number and needs to get a pen, I'll give you that number again. It is 08 7444 5026. If you did miss it, feel free to submit a ticket and we can send that through to you as well. Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining this week. Hopefully you're all getting set up with your accounts and you're enjoying Hubdoc so far. If you do want to give us feedback, please feel free to submit a ticket with that feedback. If you're loving it, also write us a review on the Xero Apps review page. We'd love to see your feedback. So thank you everyone. Have a great week and happy Hubdocking.